Welcome to Soul Tea Speaks, where we bring you motivational messages to help guide you on your spiritual path and journey to enlightenment, alignment, and awakening. Well, hello, and welcome to a joyous evening with Salty Speaks. I say evening because it's evening when I'm recording, but it'll probably be whatever. I don't know what time it'll be when you listen to this. Either way, we are celebrating the launch of Salty Speaks. This is our first episode, and I am so excited to be here with you guys. Y'all just have no idea. It's taken me a little bit to get to this point, but I am so happy that I'm finally here and doing the thing. So once again, thank you for tuning in. Welcome to our first episode. The intro that you just heard is credited to an artist named Jesse Gallagher, and the song is called Thin Places from his album The Inner Sound. I don't know Jesse personally, but shout out to him. So my name is Akili, and I am your host and creator of Salty Speaks. Just to give you guys a little background about Salty Speaks, what it is and where it came from. It started as some 2 to 3 minute videos that I would post on TikTok and Instagram. Just, my attempt at giving out some daily motivations. And of course, what happened is life happened, and I kind of fell out of doing it. But recently I got the spark, to really take this concept and this thing that I started and turn it into a long form podcast. I was finding that even in my videos, I was kind of struggling to keep it to social media attention span length anyway. So this seems to be way more fitting for me. So the way that these podcast episodes work, I'll start every episode with a one phrase message, and then we'll chat about it and what it means and how we achieve it, etc., etc. Bear in mind, I am not a professional. I am just speaking on experience, and I'm just hoping that the authentic and real nature of, what I have to offer comes through. As a disclaimer, this definitely falls in the category of spiritual stuff, I guess. But don't knock it until you try it. I'm hoping that, the things that we talk about here resonate with all kinds of people, not just the ones that operate on vibration and frequency, which, if you ask me, we all do because that's science. But you know what I mean, as a whole. So let's get right into it. Today's message is Affirm Your Soul Mission. With this being the first episode, I just felt that was the ideal message to give us to kind of start out the year, start out, just sort of what we want to be working through and working towards as we navigate our year. Affirm your soul mission. What is your soul mission, right? So I define the soul mission as that one thing that you can't live and not do, right? Like when you wake up in the morning, what's that thing that makes you breathe, truly breathe? A lot of us disregard our soul missions. And why, right? Like, if this is something that I am meant to do, if this is something that is meant for me, if this is somewhere that I am meant to be, then why, by nature, am I disregarding this soul mission? Why am I, not following and pursuing and all of those things? And, I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that society makes our soul missions out to feel unattainable because it may not always fit within what I call the quote unquote life budget. And so the life budget is this concept that I have that kind of overviews this idea of, how do I explain this? So how much the value of time, right? The value of time and the value of what you need in terms of your survival, and how that pairs against how much time and the value of time that would go into that thing that obviously you're probably not making any money from, so it's not immediately contributing to your life situation, right? Like, pairing those two things and finding the balance between the two. And that's really what I'm getting to. It's all about balance. The life budget is all about balance. And how people talk about that, like work-play balance, or, whatever, right? Like, how you prioritize and how you split out the time and the resources that you have to still be able to move into a fulfilling life. And so, I think one of the things that I really want to make sure that I clarify here is that your soul mission is not just a hobby, right? Like, it can be a hobby, something that you do and that you enjoy, but typically it's going to be something that's much more serious than that. It's something that you can't do without, right? So one of your hobbies may turn out to be your soul mission, but your soul mission is not always a hobby, if that makes sense. So this is going to be something that, that really sparks that fire in you. That thing that brings you, full joy and pure fulfillment. And even if it may not be supporting you in the ways that you need right now. So I just want to talk a little bit about, kind of my journey, and sort of give you a visual for this soul mission concept, right? So I feel that I have two soul missions, right? To educate and to empathize, or storytell, if you will. And, I've always known that I am an artist from, that I was an artist from a young age. I was very into music. I picked up guitar. I would draw and play poetry, write poetry, dance, and all these things. And so right then and there, that tells me that my passions are guiding me to entertainment of some sort, or some sort of artistic career path, right? And so for the longest time, I hyper focused on just one of those things, right? I hyper focused on being a musician. I hyper focused on writing music and doing concerts. And what I found is that over time, that just, it didn't end up being the thing that was giving me the most consistent fulfillment, right? Like, in the moment of doing it, it always felt very fulfilling and very good to me. But beyond that, at a certain point, the process of it, the creating process, I wasn't enjoying much anymore. The time that I needed to be putting into it, I wasn't putting into it, just things like that. And as much as I still love music and I love my music work, I'm just not as involved in it, right? Bear in mind, right, like, your soul mission is typically something a lot more general, right? So it's the difference between saying, oh, my soul mission is to be a musician, right? Like, and that is a career, that is an occupation, and that is an interest in something that can change. So that's not what I'm talking about here. I'm talking about broader concepts, ideas that these occupations that you take over fulfill, right? So going kind of back to my story, I got really drawn to acting, and I got really drawn to teaching. And most specifically, one of the things that really hooked me in the music and why I was so in love with the performance aspect was that I got to tell stories through song. And it was the same thing with theater when I got into that, but obviously on a whole nother level. And so when I aligned with my purpose in terms of what is the broader thing here, right? What is the broader mission? What is it? What in what avenue do I anticipate to be serving, right? Like, where is my service? Where do I feel most fulfilled servicing or offering service? And I found that it was in the storytelling. It was in the empathizing of what those art forms come with, right? And so I started to realize that my attention span and my attraction to the theater arts was more disciplined and became what music started out as for me, because it settled more deeply and more comfortably into the idea of into my soul mission, into my soul mission space. Um so, after some time, right? And after I came to this understanding, I started to seek and I started to set intention for the things that were more closely aligned to my soul mission. So when I got outside of the education space, I went into, i.e., higher level education, college. I started doing all my own research and getting into, how do I get into the local scene? And mind you, I didn't graduate from college. I withdrew from college. I left because I didn't feel like what I was doing was the thing that I needed to be doing. I was burnt out. I was tired. I was frustrated. And there were a lot of other factors in my life that were affecting just kind of where I was and what I was experiencing and what was going on. Anyway, so all of that just piled on top of each other. I knew that just wasn't the place for me. And so fast forward a few years, and here I am now, and I've, really delved deep into, my soul mission space, and I've seen a lot of success in my acting and a lot of growth in my income, taking on this particular this pathway. And so, you do start to, that you are in the right place, right? Because you start to feel the difference. It gets easier to get up and go. You feel lighter. And you don't worry as much. I found that when I stopped worrying so much about, oh God, where is it going to come from this month? Can I really afford to spend the time to do this and also this? Well, what if I burn myself out? And all of these what ifs and all of these questions. And yes, it is important to be self-aware, and it is important to know when it's time to rest, when it's time to take a break, when you need to maybe say no to this event or no to this opportunity, because it would keep you from being able to practice the proper self-care, which is a whole nother thing. But a huge part of, self-development and self-improvement, and self-love. So, I lost my train of thought. That's always been my biggest fear, like taking on a podcast, is I'm like, oh my God, what happens if I'm talking and right in the middle of what I'm saying, I completely lose my train of thought. I do write down notes. I take notes and I try to follow my notes. But sometimes when you're in the moment, something else hits you, anyways. So I said that to say I'm a little off my notes. I started ad-libbing a little bit, and here I am. Well, in any case, I know that the idea that I was getting at is that this is what it was. I started to act and move in my soul mission energy. And so when I started to act and move in my soul mission energy, more opportunities began to arise. I felt less worried. I didn't have as much anxiety, et cetera, et cetera. And then something else interesting happened. So I always said that I wouldn't go back to college, right? Because I figured, the only thing that I'm super interested in, that I think could stand being in school for, is the theater arts. And I'm doing that, and I'm doing it well, and I'm doing it fairly successfully, or what I would consider successfully, without any sort of, education or extra training per se. So, it just seemed like a waste of money and time for me to go out and get a degree in theater arts or theater performance or whatever the case may be. And But then something else interesting happened, because so when I made room, right? When I made room for my soul mission, and when I made it a consistent effort to tune to that frequency, right? While also bearing in mind, like, I still have to have a full-time job. I do work as a substitute teacher, things like that. Bearing in mind that those things have to be done and there has to be a balance created there. But when I committed to the balance, right, something else happened. And suddenly I was, and this is recently, actually. Recently, I became attuned to something new. And it was not something new that I had never considered before. It was not something new that I had never, that I maybe someone else who doesn't know me very well might be surprised by it, but it's not anything that I would be surprised for. And I say that to say it's been right under my nose this whole time. And I made the decision to go back to college and get a degree in something that, I would absolutely need the education for. And this is, again, another one of my passions that has, and I will say this, hobbies can evolve. Hobbies don't always stay hobbies forever. And this, something that kind of has been a hobby in my life, kind of in and out, up and down, but consistent nevertheless, all through my childhood into my adulthood. This hobby suddenly evolved and transformed into something more serious. And so now I am in this entrepreneurial space with this new venture, because my new environment that I have created for myself in making space for my original soul mission, right? And building a foundation and a platform around and bringing that in as a big part of my life, it is now settled in. And so with it now having been settled in, there is now new space, because I have created a routine and I have become comfortable. I now have created more space for new things. And so I'm taking on a new journey. I am taking on a new entrepreneurial endeavor, but I don't feel overwhelmed by it, because I am confident in what it feels like to affirm what's for me and see that through. So, one of the things that you have to look out for, though, is fear. And fear is such a double-edged sword, because on one hand, fear can be a very intense motivator. But on the other hand, fear can also be very crippling. And so being mindful of how we manage that fear and how we monitor it, and knowing where the root of the fear is. One of my reasons for not wanting to go back to college, I realized, had nothing to do with wanting to get an education. And it really had nothing to do with whether or not I felt like there was anything. I would often say that it just wasn't for me. I didn't like the social environment. I didn't like, there were all these things that I didn't like about it. But then I had to realize, well, wait, there were a number of other pressures that I was underneath. So I can't say that I was having that experience in a clear space. I was being motivated by lots and lots of different things. But something that I do know that I didn't enjoy was a lot of the social aspect of it. I didn't really like being on campus. I didn't really like the whole dorm room situation. I didn't like having to share my space. And so that was also something that was, that at this point can be in my control by making the choice to do online school. I've always been one of those people that classroom settings don't always work for me. I like to learn at my own pace, and I teach myself a lot of things. I am a self-learner. That is how I prefer to be a lot of the time. And so when I stopped making excuses, when my environment made room, I stopped making excuses. And again, that put me in front of a new pathway that will keep me that will open me up to something new, but also still keep me connected to what I've already made space for and the affirmation of the soul mission that I've already set in stone. When something is meant for you, it will always align. And that is something that I live by. Always, always, always live by. When something is meant for you, it will align. And that doesn't mean it will align in your time. And that's been the hardest lesson for me to learn. No, it may not align in your time, but it will align. And so you have to trust the process, and you just have to stay faithful and stay committed to it. And you have to make time for the things that are important to you. You have to put yourself out there. You have to make it work. It's literally an entire journey. And so you've got to allow yourself to enjoy it and appreciate more than you worry about the outcome. And so back to our message, as it boils down on affirming your soul mission. To affirm your soul mission is to commit to the process of it. Is to commit to whatever discipline, whatever routine is necessary for you to find yourself successful in that realm. But do it without losing the love for yourself. Make sure that you are getting the rest that you need. Make sure you are taking care of yourself. Make sure you are not overworking yourself. Make sure you are not hyperfixating. And I'm literally pot calling the kettle black right here, right now. But I think it's important for us to know what our flaws are and be able to make a plan to navigate those obstacles. Flaws are not a bad thing. They give you character. But sometimes they do get in the way a little bit of what you may see as progress. And so being self-aware and learning to navigate those things is so important also for your higher development. Hopefully everything I have described paints a clear picture of the different ways that you can establish your affirmation. Actions, power of the tongue, belief in self, positive self-esteem, all of those things. I developed, it's coming into the new year. This is also a new year pod. Woo-hoo! I never thought that I would be that. I didn't even realize that New Year's just happened when I decided to do this. So maybe that's a good sign. I believe in starting the year off with the things that you want to see throughout your year. So I brought in this new year at my computer, getting busy, getting things done, just really throwing myself into my new projects. So in any case, it's so important to have a routine. If you're going to affirm your soul mission, have a practice, right? And when I say a practice, that could be meditation, that could be working out, that could be yoga, that could be journaling, that could be something. But have a practice, something that keeps your mind clear and keeps you mindful. And, of course, I have my own practices of meditation and manifestation, and, we will go over those things in another episode one of these days, I'm sure. Here's the bottom line. You are the master creator of your own destiny, right? And I know that someone is out there going, is she blaspheming and saying we are God? Yeah, you. I'm calling you out. But no, I'm not saying that. What I am saying is that you have the power to make a choice. And every day you tell yourself you can't or shouldn't do something based on some societal bull that couldn't possibly be serving your highest good. In this case, your highest good being your ultimate happiness, joy, and fulfillment. You're only hurting yourself. So affirming your soul mission is directly related to understanding that you are the master creator of your own destiny. And you should take care of that. A destiny is a big thing to carry. It's a big load to manage. But you came into the world with it and you've been carrying it all your life, whether you realize it or not. And so now carry it with intention. You're aware of it, carry it with intention. I really hope that this resonated with you guys. I'm so excited about this New Year's launch. This episode will go live on this Saturday, which is January 7th, 2023. Woo woo! So I'm so excited. Soul Tea Speaks will go live every Saturday at 9 a.m. So keep up with all of the new episodes. As of this moment, I don't know where it'll be distributing. But I will have all that sorted out by the time the 7th comes around. You can like us and follow us on Facebook, on Instagram, and on Twitter at Soul Tea Speaks. SOULT, that you drink and speaks. And I just want to thank you guys so much for your support on this launch. I want to thank you all so much just for your upcoming support throughout the year. Please share with your peers, your family, your friends, and hey, make me a part of your routine. I definitely have some podcasters that I like to alternate and listen to in the morning, so I'm getting ready, and they're kind of like help me get my mindfulness practice going. And so if I'm that for you, that's incredible. That's what I'm working towards. So once again, thank you so much for tuning in to Soul Tea Speaks. So excited to get to chat more with you guys and give you more content. Keep up with us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Well, that is all from your host, Akili, bringing you the sweetest tea for your soul. So sip it while it's hot and don't let that steam roll. All right, well, we'll see you guys later. Bye-bye.